La la la, I don't have theme music, la la la. Where did the theme music go? Nancy describes the game's location as the Canadian Rockies of Canada. Nancy is bad at geography. The scenery repeats every 9 seconds. Ollie must be driving in a circle.
Much older than my little girl Freddie.
Nancy is 18. Freddie is much younger than that. The scenery goes backwards while the truck goes forwards. This conversation takes 1 minute, but according to the timer in the upper right corner, it takes 5 minutes. I would tell my boss about a building explosion right away, but Nancy and Ollie decide to wait a day before calling Chantal.
One of his deputies found the knob to the back door clear out on the highway.
We were on the highway when the bunkhouse exploded. I didn't see any doorknobs. The lodge is much closer to the bunkhouse than the highway is, yet the debris hit the highway and not the lodge. Chantal's question needs a question mark.
Well, I was thinking that maybe I'd just be your new maid.
Nancy does everyone else's chores cliché. Over half of this opening scene is a close-up of the phone. Ollie spends the entire scene standing away from Nancy, then he gets closer so he can wink at her, then he backs away again. Ollie is creepy.
In fact, you're my new cook, too!
Your cook?
Nancy is enthusiastic about being a maid, but upset about being a cook. I would be upset about both.
That way, you'll have even more excuses to talk to the guests.
Nancy never talks to anyone while she's cooking, making this a stupid line of reasoning.
I won't have to pay anyone.
Chantal is a jerk.
I want you to call this police detective I've hired as a consultant.
Tino is getting paid, but Nancy isn't. That is ridiculously unfair.
Tino Balducci.
Tino Balducci.
I'll get you a master key and leave it in your room.
According to the clock, only 1 minute passed, so in 1 minute, Ollie ran upstairs, fully prepared Nancy's room, then ran back downstairs without her seeing him. The front page of the maid instructions changes once Nancy picks them up. Ollie printed out this set of maid instructions, even though he didn't know Nancy would volunteer to be the maid. Maid Nancy never washes the bedsheets or the blankets. Maid Nancy takes dirty towels away, but who gives the guests clean towels? Why do all the guests use the same number of towels and washcloths every single day? How do the guests use up their towels and washcloths? There aren't any showers connected to their rooms. For that matter, none of the hotel rooms have phones or TVs. The maid notes say you must shovel the skating pond after every snowfall. It snows multiple times in this game, but Nancy only shovels the skating pond once.
Looks like somebody has their work cut out for them when it comes to shoveling off this pond.
That's your job, Nancy. The instructions say to periodically check the sauna. Nancy never checks it once. People honestly believe that a wolf ripped car tires, iced downstairs, set off explosives, and spoiled the potato salad. This is ridiculous. Nancy's boots and coat magically appear on her body whenever she steps outside.
You shall not pass unless and until she proves herself worthy.
Freddy's voice. You have to fight Freddy every single time you want to use this path. Ollie lets his daughter stay outside all day, even though there is a wild wolf on the loose. Ollie lets his daughter stay outside all day, even though he has no idea how she won't freeze to death. Ollie is an irresponsible parent.
I better not follow this trail until I know for sure where it goes.
Why does the lodge mark some pathways, but not others? Nancy could easily use the map to learn this path goes to Avalanche Ridge, but she doesn't. The clock face glows here, but not when you zoom in on it. The path to the lake is not covered in snow. Who maintains this pathway? It takes 32 minutes to walk down the path, so that's a lot of work. Icicle Lake is filled with bombs, and nobody cares. If you ask me, those bombs are far more dangerous than the wolf. In all the discussions of how the culprit makes explosions, nobody mentions the bombs in the lake. You can go the entire game without talking to Guadalupe.
My name is Guadalupe Comillo. My friends call me Lupe.
So I should call you Lupe?
I hardly think so, dear.
Lupe is a jerk.
Birds. I'm watching birds. That's what I am, you see, a bird watcher.
Lupe watches birds through the most fogged-up window in the entire lodge. Lupe is a wildlife expert, but she doesn't know what birds live in this area.
I don't spend all my time in front of this window.
Lupe never appears anywhere besides this window.
The other guests are all men. Single men. When my ex moved out of the house, he turned into a complete slob within a week. They can't help it, poor things. It's an unfortunate aberration of the genes.
Lupe hates me. Bill's birthmark is a plot point, yet it's on the cheek facing away from Nancy, where players are likely to miss seeing it. Bill's hand changes positions while he's talking.
This fox and geese game is pretty darn fun.
Lies. All lies. Lou and Bill will badger Nancy about cleaning off the skating pond, even if it's 8 p.m. at night when none of them can go outside. Nobody else noticed Elsa's notes. Why did Elsa keep these love letters here instead of in her room? Nancy picks up crumpled papers from the floor, reads them, then she crumples them up again and puts them back on the floor. Nancy is a horrible maid. Manually dialing 10-digit phone numbers. The dial tone keeps going even after you start dialing a number. You can talk to basically everyone who's related to the lodge except Becky the cook. Why did she get left out? Icicle Lodge keeps track of a person's hometown, but not their current address.
Then the phone wires were cut and...
We don't follow up on this storyline. Chantal will yell at Nancy for not cooking, even if you didn't cook because you were on the phone with her. Chantal will yell at Nancy for not cooking or cleaning, but she never yells at Nancy for not doing detective work. You know, the thing that Nancy was actually hired to do?
Do you know what he did when we were on that train trip Laurie Gerard arranged?
He didn't go into a lot of detail, but he did say that that's all water under the bridge.
Nancy doesn't bother to tell Chantal the truth about what happened.
Laurie's last name is misspelled.
Cooking. This puzzle takes forever, and you have to do it multiple times. You constantly have to put your investigation on hold in order to do cooking. The lodge has the exact same meals every single day. People were poisoned by potato salad, but potato salad is not one of the meals that is offered at Icicle Creek Lodge. Ollie and Freddie don't have rooms. Nancy doesn't get to eat any meals herself. I can clearly hear people who are not guests at the lodge. How can Ollie tell that Nancy messed up on a recipe? The ingredients aren't visible. All the food names are capitalized for no apparent reason. Leave the French toast alone for 5 seconds, burn down the entire building. You can go through the entire game without talking to Yanni. Yanni is a jerk. Yanni's butt. This wolf trap has 5 pieces. Why does it take Ollie so long to assemble it?
I could run this place single-handed if I had to, just like I'm doing now.
Ollie brags he could do everything by himself, but he still forces Nancy to do his chores.
Tino Balducci, remember me? From that last train to Blue Moon Canyon we went on?
How does Tino know the name of that video game?
I'm the one who helped you find that long-lost treasure.
Wrong! Nancy found a mine with a letter in it. She did not find treasure. How is Tino supposed to help with the investigation when he's nowhere near the lodge?
Hi, is this Mr. Jenkins?
Yeah, this is Carl.
Carl's game doesn't have a pause button. This puzzle. Let's hear this shoveling sound effect 90 times in a row, shall we? Nancy somehow knows how many holes are in the ice before she starts shoveling.
I'm buried in snow.
None of Nancy's dialogue shows up in the subtitles. These blocks of ice fall upwards. The wolf saves Nancy only to threaten her. This hole doesn't look very deep, but when Nancy turns around, suddenly she's down past her neck.
No more avalanches for me, thank you very much. I'm not going out there again. Too dangerous.
Nancy refuses to revisit Chicken Ridge due to fear of avalanches, but she goes to Avalanche Ridge without fear of avalanches.
To be great is to be misunderstood.
There is nothing great about you, Lou, you dirt-digging, dinosaur bone-stealing Harry Potter wannabe. This puzzle. Snowmobiling. You snowmobile for a minute so you can see a sign, then you turn around and snowmobile for another minute. Who built all these random snowmen in the middle of nowhere? Nancy gets fired as a reward for not dying. Why is Freddy afraid Nancy won't snowball fight with her anymore? It's not like Nancy has a choice. Where does Freddy get her endless supply of Toasty Packs? Her father doesn't know about them, so he's not buying them. Toasty Packs don't last all that long. Freddy must use dozens of them each day. Bill thinks that Nancy has to do whatever he says just because she's a maid. Bill is a jerk. No one seems to care that the ice fishing shack was sabotaged. Here's the scene of the bullet falling out of Lupe's pocket. The bullet appears to be invisible. The carpet goes against the lines on the wood floor, but now it's going with the lines on the floor.
That's all I'm going to tell you, Nancy.
Lupe is borderline mean to Nancy at the lodge, but as soon as she gets kicked out, suddenly she's Nancy's best friend.
Say no more. There's my tackle box.
Ollie gives Nancy the tackle box without moving his arms. How did Yanni know Nancy would be here in the ice fishing shack at this point in time? Was he waiting outside for hours, hoping someone would stop by? Yanni goes from mostly harmless sabotage to attempted murder with no prompting whatsoever. This puzzle reused from the previous game. Why does the lodge keep snowshoes under lock and key? That's weird. Lou won't let Nancy borrow his snowshoes when he's not using them. Lou is a jerk.
The fox and geese pieces disappear when you talk to someone. Bill is putting way too much thought into his next move, considering there's an open piece he can jump over.
What planet do you most identify with?
I guess it would be Mars. You know, that whole God of War thing?
I should have known.
Why should Nancy associate Bill with the God of War?
Tino's survey. Nancy should know better than to expect smart questions from Tino.
He says you're to fill most of it out by observing the people staying at the lodge, rather than just asking them the questions outright. He says that would put them on their guard.
And make the puzzle too easy. These questions are stupid. How can you identify a saboteur by their love of paprika or their favorite planet?
Directly to Tino, and he wants you to call him before you do so he can turn his machine on.
Tino is so cheap he can't leave his fax machine on all the time. Nancy decides to identify the owner of this journal by their scent and not by their handwriting. How is this shack still warm? Its owner died weeks ago. The first page of this diary is halfway through the book. Julius wrote this entry in red for no apparent reason.
Pinevale Hospital.
Nancy says this when you turn to a page that does not mention Pineville Hospital. Who put this fax in an envelope and left it by the door for Nancy? And why don't they ever mention it to Nancy? You'd think, hey, a police officer is sending you crime reports on a guest here would come up in a conversation. This puzzle. Nancy finds a hidden passageway cliché. This puzzle.
Forward, right, left, right, jump, forward, go.
How does Isis remember all those commands? I can't remember a list of 7 commands in a row. How does this board know where the wolf is? Are there motion sensors in the tunnel? It takes Nancy about an hour and 15 minutes to return to the lodge. Isis holds on to this rope the entire time. It takes Nancy 50 minutes to get from the lodge to the shack, but it only takes 10 minutes if she goes through the mines.
And he left those pictures of Bill Kessler from me in the sauna, although he swears the door got stuck by accident in order to cast suspicion on someone else.
This wasn't a murder attempt. Yanni just wanted Nancy to see suspicious photos of Bill. Since that's the case, why not leave the photos here in the entryway? Why go through all the trouble of hiding them in the sauna? Nancy can take Ollie's rag for the washcloth puzzle, even if she's already solved the washcloth puzzle. The one picture of Bill fits the caption. The other picture has nothing to do with the caption.
Obvious Photoshop. This puzzle. Nancy is dying in a sauna, yet she still keeps her coat on. Bill suddenly appears inside the sauna without opening the door. How did Yanni find out about the special master key that's hidden here?
Daniel Weissnitz, better known as Trapper Dan, I'll bet.
Nancy already saw Trapper Dan's real name in Lou's journal and the display case, but she acts like she's never seen it before. This puzzle. It's tedious to have to decode multiple pages of text. Yanni never bothered to touch the moose coin that's hidden in this compartment. How is the painting connected to the door locks?
Who do you think I am? A gun-toting thug, a washed-up actor, an antique stealer?
Mystical spoils the culprit of every previous game. This puzzle. Why does Nancy have to play fox and geese here? Why can't she just put the token into place when Bill isn't around?
Oh my gosh, he set the timer. It looks like he's about to blow up the needle. Isis, we've got to get out of here, fast.
Nancy knows she will die if she doesn't escape right away, but she still stops for a moment and explains the situation to herself. Nancy exits through an unknown tunnel instead of leaving through the door she just entered. Nancy conveniently closes her eyes here so they don't have to animate Ollie driving up. Ollie will stand in place and look at you forever if you let him. Yanni is a world-famous speed skier, but he doesn't use his skis to leave the area. Where did Yanni's snowmobile come from? Did he have it hidden in the snow here just for the endgame challenge? This puzzle. You have to chase Yanni for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes before he crashes. Yanni can go through trees, but Nancy can't. Yanni lands next to a tree, but when we zoom in, there's no tree.